Hey, everybody. Happy 4th of July. I was recently asked to look at the words peacekeeper and peacemaker. I was challenged to fully understand what each word meant and how they applied to our personal lives, and especially in the business ethos. Actually, I was quite surprised by my lack of understanding of each. What really caught my eye was the definition of each, as well as the definition for peace itself. Peace has multiple definitions, yet both peacekeeping and peacemaking only have one each. I found it interesting that when you add maker and keeper to the root word of peace, you end up with two words that at first glance appear to mean the same thing, but the reality finds the words absolutely different in their application and effect. It was only after a pretty horrible personal experience in my own neighborhood that the importance and quite honestly, the disparity between these words became pretty clear, but I'll get back to that in a little bit. A peacekeeper is pretty much what it sounds like, someone that keeps the peace. The efforts to obtain the peace involve defensive actions like standing guard, enforcing curfews, and controlling an area or its people. Keeping always involves some kind of enforcement. In fact, when I entered the word peacekeeper into the Google machine, the first thing that popped up was an ad for peacekeeper products. No lie, like batons, holsters, and tactical gear. A peacemaker is pretty much how it sounds. A peacemaker offensively works to make peace by using words and actions to establish reconciliation. What fascinated me was coming to understand that it's the approach to navigating conflict rather than the goal or aspirations of having peace that defines these two words. I'd argue that a keeper is less likely to do much to solve things because it values the absence of conflict over finding a way to make peace. I think back to the uprising at Tiananmen Square in China a few years ago. My biggest memory is that young man standing in front of the tank, unarmed, asking for that driver to stop and see the cost his people were paying in the name of keeping peace and supporting change. He was a peacemaker. The tank was tasked to be the peacekeeper, having absolutely no ability to solve the core issue at hand. It actually took peace out of the equation. We assume that keepers have a huge stake in peace, yet in reality, they're only tasked with suppressing conflict and neutralizing issues. It has a perception of passive behavior. Don't bring it up, don't talk about it, don't rock the boat, and it'll all go away. Peacekeepers seemingly will always have a job because nobody wants conflict. Keepers deal in the currency of strength and power and bending the circumstances without taking the time required to seek resolution. And since it's the job of the keepers to suppress conflict and contain the issues and avoid discomfort, they will be in demand as the go-to means for peace. Now, a peacemaker is a superhero in all this. They wade into the conflict with the goal of creating opportunity for peace. Finding a way by actively working to establish an environment for discourse where one could be heard, giving hope and ideas a chance to flourish. This effort requires courage, conviction, and a willingness to do what it takes, and that most certainly is not found with a gun at the end of a tank. Now, I will admit the area of maker that gets a little dicey and maybe off-brand is when the lid has to be taken off a pot of simmering peace to put out a fire. The appearance of peace is disrupted in order to allow systematic peace to become established. So let me ask you now that I made two cases for two different ideas. How many of these circumstances are in your lives today? We tell warring countries not to shoot one another. We're being a peacekeeper. We get warring countries to sit down and find a solution to the problem causing the conflict is a peacemaker. So how many times with our kids or in business have we said, let's keep the peace rather than take the time to explore what it takes to make peace? Now, I regret not recognizing the difference between the two. I'm sure I was way more of a peacekeeper with my kids when they were growing up. It's what I understood. And it's only now that I've come to value their subtle differences. So let's go back to my neighborhood and the reason why those differences between those two words became so clear and important to me. Sadly, a conflict escalated into a situation where people will not be able to recover from. The conflict was settled with gunfire and a life was lost. Now, I cannot undo what I heard, and there is no way I can undo what I saw. But what's certain is that there was no peacemaker, just a misguided peacekeeper. This is not a they or them situation. It's about all of us. We want to live without the discomfort of conflict. And we've been taught that if there's conflict, we want to deal with it swiftly and neatly. Presto, poof, magic, all with clean hands. Let's realize that every day we have the opportunity to wade in and get uncomfortable by getting our emotional hands dirty. We have to know that peace isn't the absence of conflict, and that the only way to keep peace is by making peace. It's abundantly clear to me we have the ability to choose which one of these peace people we want to be. Hi, I'm Todd, and I'm a peacemaker. Happy 4th of July. Go Padres, and thank you, and go inspire somebody today. It's really important.